Coatlicue. We will see the ideas, beliefs, symbolisms, and indigenous stories of Mesoamerica, the Anahuac, related to Coatlicue, the spirit of Mother Earth, the creative energy of not only us humans, but also of the sun. Coatlicue, today known as the Mother Goddess of the Aztecs. Of her several statues, this is the most famous, powerful image which made the Spaniards hide it because of the pride and interest it provoked amongst the Mexican native people during colonial times. And we'll see how the Hispanics came to put her statue in jail. The famous statue of Coatlicue, admired by her own people and strangers alike. A statue which we recreated how it would look like in real life, as well as the human face we can get. Is this what the real face of the Mother of the Gods would look like? We will see the importance of Coatlicue in the artistic side, as well as the place Coatlicue had in astronomical phenomena, which gave way to sagas and fables of cosmic proportions, which explain our world. And we'll see how scientists today explain Coatlicue's role in the creation of our solar system, and how people of faith nowadays link Coatlicue with the Virgin of Guadalupe. And we'll see how today Coatlicue still dwells in the hearts and hands of her children, of us Mexicans, humans. Beloved as Mother Earth, but also monstrous as our Mother Earth can be. Coatlicue, in Nahuatl language, the language of the Aztecs, it means the skirt of snakes. One of the many names of this spirit depending on its role. As the mother of everyone and everything, she was known as Tonantzin, that is, our little mother or our dear mother. Other names given to Coatlicue, depending on the natural phenomena which her spirit affected, were Cihuacoatl, snake woman. Coatlicue was also called Quilastli. Coatlicue was also Chimalma in her facet as mother of Quetzalcoatl, i.e. nature. Coatlicue is also Cuatlantonan in her manifestation as Lady of the Flowers, since she is the one who brings life in spring. And Coatlicue was even associated to the Iztaccíhuatl volcano. Although she was of the utmost importance in astronomy, spirituality, and culture to the Mexica Aztecs, the idea of Coatlicue can also be found among other native nations of Anahuac, that is ancient Mexico and Central America. Amongst the Otomi-Ñañú, she would be the Old Mother, creator of us humans and mother of all things, and therefore supreme representative of fertility. Amongst the Zapotec Bensaa, Coatlicue is Xonaxi, where she was also called our mother. Being the creator of the sun, the earth, and all things and people, her energy produces the human life cycle. For this reason, our mother advocates and protects us humans. Amongst the Tachiwin Totonacs, Coatlicue is Natzi Itni, that is, the mothers, since the spirit of the supreme spiritual mother of all things is not only one, but several. It is the mother of the sun, of corn, and humans, whose life energy is focused in the creation of the embryo, of the baby inside the mother's belly. Our Supreme Mother triggers life within our biological mother to create us all. And for the same reason, the Mother of Mothers also protects midwives and those who give birth. Amongst the Huichol, Coatlicue would be our 5 mothers, from which 4 mothers are the 4 directions of the universe, and the 5th mother is the one who created the sun and existence. The Huichol Wixárika also have Coatlicue with the name of Taquitzinacaue, the grandmother growth, the creator of the world, of humans, and supreme owner of the stars. Also linked to the fertilization of seedlings and vegetation. She is represented as a water serpent, since she defeated the countless snakes that inhabited the waters in primordial times, from which she only left alive one, the snake which pours water through rain. Throughout Anahuac there was and still exists the idea of the Supreme Mother, a female spirit whose power gave life to us humans and to life itself. She was represented in the Anahuaca worldview, the Mesoamerican worldview, as a mother. This because our mothers give us life and give everything for us, including risking their lives in the maximum sacrifice they can make for us, giving birth, where in many cases many women lose their health and even their lives. The same way applied to this phenomenon of nature which gave birth to the sun and made life possible, and therefore our existence. That's why Tonantzin Coatlicue is our mother and grandmother at the same time, supreme feminine energy for whom we live. But how can this energy be depicted, this force of the universe? How to portray this phenomenon of nature? The Aztecs had a way of representing Coatlicue by simplifying its cosmic strength with art, with sculpture, with symbolism, with images and forms. The statue of Coatlicue, also known as Coatlicue's Monolith, because this colossal artistic work is made out of a single stone. The stone must have been gigantic from which it was carved and chiseled to produce the colossal statue of Coatlicue. The statue was completely carved, no corner was spared by the sculpture. A true apotheosis of the beliefs of our indigenous ancestors, showing in all its glory the art, culture, details, majesty, and dedication that our ancestors had. Dreadful and threatening to the eyes of the outsiders, they do not know that for us, snakes are a symbol of this earthly world. And even more so rattlesnakes, very typical of our lands. Throughout the sculpture, we can see snakes in different shapes and sizes. The vast majority of snakes can be seen on her skirt, a skirt made not with fabric, but snakes, as her name Coatlicue translates, she of the skirt of snakes. The zigzagging shape seems to allude to these snakes, moving and intertwining with each other. This skirt of snakes, having no lace, wears a wide waistband belt, made of snakes as well. This waistband belt is used to hold the skirt. However, we can see that it is a wide waistband belt. Wide waistband belts were used in Mesoamerica for women who had given birth, and in fact are still used in Guatemala. These served and still serve to gird women after having their baby. Another important element that we can see in the statue of Coatlicue, which stands out at first sight, is her strange head. Her face is composed of 2 large snakes, facing each other together, also shaping her head. Hence, one eye and a series of fangs are from one snake. the other eye and the other fangs from the second snake. They are rattlesnakes, looking at each other to create the face of the monster of the earth. The monster with which our world was represented, what we call today Mother Earth. Wise as serpents, but reminding us that she can become monstrous and unleash her apocalyptic fury on us, her little children. Snakes also remind us that life is cyclical, because just as snakes shed their skin, so does our Mother Earth, shedding from the drought and death of winter to the rebirth of life each spring. Coatlicue, being a female force, a woman, she has breasts. We can see her chest and part of her breasts delicately sculpted, as is the female body. But we cannot fully see her breasts, since they're covered by her enigmatic necklace. In a necklace that surrounds Coatlicue, we can see hearts and hands hanging as if they were their precious stones that adorn it. By the way, another name of Coatlicue was also Coscamiao, translated as necklace of maize spikes. Coatlicue gives us life by giving us our hearts, our conscience, our existence. That's the reason to depict hearts. But Coatlicue also takes our lives. She will take us by the hand to the earth from where we came from. It will take us captives, just as the warriors of yesteryear captured their captives in war. Hence, we are the captives of Coatlicue. We are her little children. We are tied to her. That's the reason for the hands. The Aztecs believed that our heart is the place where our conscience dwells, which makes each of us unique, with our thoughts, but also with our spirit. The hands, on the other hand, is a symbol of our physical body, of what we do externally in this earthly world, what we work with, what we use to accomplish our daily and worldly tasks. The monolith of Coatlicue has snake legs and jaguar feet. Those feet, with their big claws, come alive since each foot has a pair of eyes. And instead of arms, she has one snake per arm. The way her snake arms look menacing to the front shows Coatlicue's relationship with the Mictlan, with the world of the dead. But aside from this, we see that it carries white paper flags, just as those who were going to be executed used to carry. White. White being the color of death, since it is the color of nothingness. In white, where there is nothing, where there is no color that indicates life. And Coatlicue gave her life for the creation of the world according to one of the several stories that existed around our Great Mother. And many of those accounts explain much of what one can find in her huge statue. There were many stories of Coatlicue told by our native ancestors, and that in one way or another they are related to each other or not, depending on the aspect of this important female spirit, and depending on the culture of each indigenous nation. But ultimately those stories make up the mosaic of the cosmogony of our Tonantzin, of our beloved mother. One story highlights its astronomical aspect, that is, the explanation of the movements of the sun and stars. Our native ancestors of Mesoamerica, the Anahuac, had names and images for the different constellations of the firmament, for the different stars, and for the planets. Great astronomers who performed mathematical and calendrical calculations based on the movement of stars. Just as today we say that the Orion Nebula is in the constellation of Orion, the same happened with the stories that our indigenous ancestors had. And that doesn't mean NASA astrophysicists pray to Orion. The same was for the names of the wrongfully called gods, which our native ancestors gave to many stellar phenomena. It was only to explain their movements in the sky. And the best example is that of Coatlicue and her son Huitzilopochtli, that is, the sun. One story tells of when Coatlicue swept ritualistically. In ancient times, there was a sacred ritual of sweeping temples where women could voluntarily enter to serve as a religious for a couple of years. In the same way, Coatlicue swept ritualistically. But one day, while she was sweeping, Coatlicue found a small ball of feathers. She kept it near her stomach and continued sweeping. Afterwards, she couldn't find that little ball of feathers and realized that she was pregnant with her baby, Huitzilopochtli. Coatlicue had many sons and daughters, which were the stars in the sky. Of all of them, a faction of her children became angry with her. They thought that such a pregnancy brought dishonor. Those stars descend on Huitznawa, that is, the 400 Southerners or the 400 stars of the South, led by their eldest sister, Coyolxauhqui, the moon, planned to murder their own mother for such an affront. Coatlicue, pregnant with Huitzilopochtli, lived in the mythical place of Coatepec, that is, the Hill of the Serpent. Her children said they were ashamed of her pregnancy, but Coatlicue was unaware that the 400 Southerners and Coyolxauhqui were getting ready to climb the mountain and murder their own mother. But out of those stars, one whose name was Coatlicue secretly went ahead and warned Huitzilopochtli, who was still inside his mother's belly, that the 400 stars of the South and Coyolxauhqui were on their way to kill their mother. Coatlicue was very afflicted, feeling helpless, but her son, Huitzilopochtli, from inside her belly, told her not to worry, that he was going to defend her from his siblings. Coatlicue kept reporting to Huitzilopochtli the position the stars were taking as they approached in their war march. Finally, when the Senzon Huitznawa and their female leader, Coyolxauhqui, arrived, Huitzilopochtli is born, dressed and armed, ready for war. In an epic cosmic battle, Huitzilopochtli, the Winter Sun, fights his sister, Coyolxauhqui, to repel the southern stars back to the south, thus defending his mother, Mother Earth, and to bring everything back to life again in spring. At the mother of all battles, the struggle to ensure that winter does not last forever, Huitzilopochtli defeats Coyolxauhqui by throwing her from the top of the mountain of Coatepec, where her body ends up in pieces. Her defeat was immortalized by the Mexica Aztecs with the monument they made to Coyolxauhqui, where her body appears dismembered on the ground, as it is recounted in the story. We can see her head, her female torso, her legs, and her arms. This monument is in itself a masterpiece of art and reminds us of the cosmic struggle that celestial bodies have. The 400 stars that arrived ready for war fled in terror, but Huitzilopochtli pursued them and fought each one of them, until destroying and extinguishing all the stars of the south. This story has its astronomical form in the winter solstice, when exactly from the stomach of this Iztaccíhuatl volcano, another of the names of Coatlicue, the sun is born at its southernmost point. And when it rises, his great light defeats the stars by extinguishing them, thus becoming the sun Huitzilopochtli, the greatest warrior of the firmament and defender of his Mother Earth, as it wobbles on her own axis, which causes each solstice and equinox. Despite the dark and threatening winter, and even though days shorten, the sun will always be there defending Mother Earth. Another story that was narrated of Coatlicue is that she gave her life in exchange for the birth of the sun, human beings, and all life. It is said that she took off her skirt to throw herself and self-immolate herself in order to give way to life. Hence, she only wears a skirt, but a skirt of snakes. With her death, Coatlicue gave life to the sun and to all living beings. And this would also be in line with the white paper flags carried in her hands by the colossal monolith of Coatlicue, emphasizing her death that gave rise to life. Nowadays, scientists around the world use Coatlicue's idea to explain the creation of our sun and the solar system. Scientifically, a star exploded monstrously into a supernova, one of the most colossal explosions in the universe. The debris cloud resulting from the explosion of that supernova created the sun and the planets and the moons of the solar system. That star, which exploded and died to give life to our sun and planet Earth, scientists name it Coatlicue. According to scientists, the stardust left behind after the Coatlicue explosion was what created our world and the molecules from which life came to be. It's no coincidence scientist Carl Sagan said that we humans are made of star stuff. In this case, from the star Coatlicue. This, according to astrophysicists and cosmologists. This is also how the Aztecs explained our origin and the origin of the sun. In the end, the sun has its origin in another star, much older and way larger, which monstrously exploded and caused chaos in this sector of the galaxy to then give rise to life, to human beings, to those of us who have hearts and hands. It gave us spiritual consciousness, the heart, and gave us the human physical form, the hands. The creation of the human being is linked to the solar creation and vice versa. And this is not only mentioned by Coatlicue's notion, but by science. The Aztecs used imagery to explain scientific phenomena, events in the cosmos, and events of nature. Quetzalcoatl, the precious serpent, nature, life itself. Tlaloc, the rain and the different forms of water brought to us from the sky. Tlazolteotl, the procreative process of the baby from the lust of sexual relations to the birth of the baby. The same happened with Coatlicue, with her big fangs and her skirt of snakes. And our native ancestors studied this phenomena of nature, that is, they studied science. For example, the name of the great temple, the pyramid temple of Mexico Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, was Coatepec. At the foot of the high pyramid was the sculpture of the Coyolxauhqui. It is likely the statue of Coatlicue was located at the top of the main pyramid temple, thus recreating the story of the mythical Coatepec and the cosmic clash between Huitzilopochtli and Coyolxauhqui. Hence, when climbing the main temple, you had a direct view of the Iztaccíhuatl volcano and the rebirth of the sun, which happened every year during the winter solstice. Upon the arrival of the Europeans, the monolith of Coatlicue was buried face down and downwards on the limit of what is today the Mexico City's main square. And it would have remained there, buried, if it were not for the renovations that took place at the downtown area by orders of the Spanish Viceroy, Revillagigedo. In the boundaries of what is now the Zócalo, the city's main square, while digging ditches to level the ground for these projects, the statue of Coatlicue was found on August 13, 1790. First, she was put in front of the now called Honor Gate of what is now the Mexican Presidential Palace. There, she waited to be destroyed in pieces like all the sculptures that were found by the Spaniards. However, Viceroy Revillagigedo wanted to change the way Spaniards treated the works of art of the Mexica Aztecs, aiming to rescue history and be able to admire the artistic value they possess. And this is how Coatlicue and other sculptures such as the so-called Aztec calendar survived the backward savage destruction which for centuries the Spaniards did. Viceroy Revillagigedo ordered that Coatlicue be taken to the Royal and Pontifical University of Mexico, where he ordered for the statue to be thoroughly studied. The Dominican friars who were in charge of the university placed the statue of Coatlicue at the arcade of the university's courtyard. At first, they let people in to see the work done by their ancestors, but then something unexpected happened, as Bishop Benito Maria Moschi Francoli points out in a letter of 1805.
Eran reiteradas las visitas de los indios para contemplar su famosa estatua. Visitas que aceptábamos en un principio, pues no veíamos en ellas más que un incentivo por el amor nacional, propio no menos de los pueblos salvajes que de los civilizados, y por complacencia de contemplar una de las obras más insignes de sus ascendientes. Posteriormente notamos que dichas visitas escondían un secreto motivo religioso y por ello le prohibimos absolutamente la entrada a los indios.
Seeing these expressions of love for Coatlicue by the people, the Hispanics put the statue in a wooden jail and would not let indigenous people in. But past working hours, in the middle of the night, people outwitted any obstacle and managed to sneak into the courtyard of the university and continued bringing signs of affection, as the bishop says,
por su fanático entusiasmo y su increíble astucia.
So the Dominican friars, the Royal and Pontifical University of Mexico, what is today the UNAM University, reburied Coatlicue, an absolute backwards and medieval action. And this is further proof of the true character of institutions that derive from colonialist inertia, of the anti-indigenous character that has always existed among scholars. Let us just remember that during colonial times, a time during which native books were burned and indigenous works of art destroyed, Spaniards acted exactly as Nazi Germany. And the irony would certainly come from Germany, but early 19th century Germany. The world-famous explorer and naturalist Alexander von Humboldt visited Mexico City in 1803. Upon his arrival, Humboldt asked about the already famous statue of Coatlicue, but he was told that she was buried again so that people would not see her and avoid fanaticism. Humboldt, supported by the Bishop of Monterrey, asked for the statue to be dug up so he could admire and study it. Coatlicue came out of the earth again, but as soon as Humboldt saw her, she was quickly buried again in one of the university's corridors. Then, the sculpture of Mother Earth came out of the earth again in the 1820s, unearthed by orders of the first president of Mexico, Guadalupe Victoria. Once she was outside, the statue was put back to be viewed, but again, behind the bars of its wooden prison. This painting by Pietro Gualdi, made in 1841, shows the monolith of Coatlicue in the arcade of the University of Mexico, far away, in a dark and imprisoned corner, almost as if its very existence was both a crime and embarrassment. Over time, the Coatlicue monolith was exhibited in the National Museum, where they gathered all the great and famous indigenous pieces. Today it is located at the National Museum of Anthropology and History in Mexico City, in the Mexica Hall. And even though, sadly, it doesn't have the main place it deserves, still, it shares the center stage with other works of art. And there is this idea that the statue of the Great Mother, creator of all things, can be embarrassing for many. To foreign eyes, the outsider's eyes, they see it as a monster idol, a behemoth made of ferocious snakes, menacing with its claws and fangs, an image far from what a mother who would give everything for us should look like. The monolith of Coatlicue has countless symbolisms, many at plain sight, but misunderstood, and many others hidden. For example, the statue has hidden numbers and mathematical sequences. For instance, we see 4 hands, 4 being a sacred, calendrical, and mathematical important number. The 4 represents the totality of the universe, the 4 directions. On the other hand, if we add the 2 hearts and the skull, we have the sacred number 7. 7 was numerologically important to our native ancestors. And if we add the 6 large fangs, we now have the number 13, a pivotal number in terms of Mesoamerican calendars and numerology. 13 is the total of numbers that can be used to designate dates of days or years in the indigenous calendar Tonalpohualli. We can also see the use of the binary system. 101 binary is 5. 101 binary is 5. 01 binary is 1. 10 binary is 2. 5 plus 5 plus 1 plus 2 equals 13. Again, the key number 13 in indigenous mathematics and calendars. Just as the binary system, which is base 2, we also see the quinary number system, which is base 5. 101 quinary equals 26. 101 quinary equals 26. We add 26 plus 26 equals 52. 52, the crucial sacred calendar number. 52 years is the equivalent of a century, so to speak, of the Aztecs. Every 52 years, the ceremony of the new fire was held. We can also see the numbers of the quadratic sequence 1, 4, 8, 13, which appears at the vigesimal count, the mathematical arrangement of the Patoli board, the Mesoamerican calendar, and the quincunx. In fact, the statue of Coatlicue has the sacred and important quincunx, a mathematical symbol found throughout Mesoamerica, the Anahuac. The quincunx is not publicly visible since it is hidden under the feet of the Coatlicue statue. However, there are photographs and drawings that have been depicted of this part of the statue. No place or space of this colossal stone was left untouched. As we see all these symbolisms in the monolith, one can imagine that there is more data and secret information hidden in the statue. So I decided to see if it's possible to find some kind of information hidden in the statue. And being the study of faces one of my obsessions, I decided to investigate if it was possible to extract data from the strange face of Coatlicue to be able to render it as a human face. And the thing is that I always, since I was a child, when visiting the Coatlicue statue at the National Museum of Anthropology, the shape of the face caught my attention. It has features with very odd but precise positions. Traits that we can use as markers to input onto the artificial intelligence and see how it would be interpreted. We have already recreated faces of other native statues with the help of artificial intelligence. Although in this case it would be different, since the face of Coatlicue is very far out. We generated a face based on the key markers of the serpentine image, and we had a result. This is the face of Coatlicue if we had to assign a human face with the markers set to the monolith. Something that draws attention are her eyes, as if she had tears. That was really something that at first I thought it might have been a computer error. I checked it for several weeks, but no, she does have sad, glassy eyes, almost to the point of tears, worried eyes. We have found stored information of faces in other indigenous statues, and we saw, perhaps forcing it, that we managed to produce this mysterious face. This face is the one we have been using to portray her during all this documentary. We applied the same technique to Coyolxauhqui, and with the help of artificial intelligence we were also able to generate a face for Coyolxauhqui. This is her face, based on the two statues of Coyolxauhqui. And again, this was the same face we used to portray her all along the documentary. But the monolith of Coatlicue is a series of symbolisms that explain the spirit of our beloved cosmic mother, Tonantzin. It's almost as if with images an explanation was given of what represents the spirit of the creative mother, her stories and the symbolic weight. In the case of the star Coatlicue, which detonated into a supernova to give birth to our solar system and ourselves, according to scientists today. How to explain this story? In the case of the mother who was defended by her son, the sun, from the southern stars, how to explain this story? In her manifestation of Mother Earth, the famous Mother Earth which we talk so much about today because of climate change, how can we represent in a statue this Mother Earth who gave us life and shelter and who also digs her claws and fangs on us with fury that unleashes hurricanes, fires, rain and drought? Our native ancestors were very adept devotees to science, so much that instead of gods, they had this worldview of spirits, which explained the functioning of the forces of nature and of the cosmos. Their temples were only small representations in models of the great manifestations of the universe. For example, the main temple of Mexico Tenochtitlan, whose name was Coatepec, the home of Coatlicue, and where Coyolxauhqui was defeated at the hands of Huitzilopochtli. But also, other temples housed each manifestation, which were the different stages or sequences in which these phenomena of nature operate. Thus, Coatlicue, in her manifestation of Cihuacoatl, had a temple of her own, where in a large sacred room they had the statue of the White Woman, that is, of the Iztaccíhuatl volcano, and around it were mock-up models of the different hills and mountains. As if it were an Aztec Google Maps, where in a three-dimensional layout they could see, calculate and prepare for the measurement of sunrises at different hills and mountains. Constantly, every day, the Aztecs made astronomical measurements and observations to register and calculate the movement of the sun, of Huitzilopochtli, with view to the Iztaccíhuatl volcano from different places. From Cuicuilco, from Xochimilco, from Chapultepec, and from the crucial observatory, the great place in honor of the Great Mother, the hill of Tepeyac. Tepeyac, the name by which this hill has always been known, whose location is unique and particular This because it has an absolute view of the Valley of Mexico. The reason is because it seems to come out like a nose from the Guadalupe mountain chain, the Sierra de Guadalupe, hence the reason for its name, Tepeyac, at the nose of the hill. The hill of Tepeyac had a pyramid temple that served as an observatory for measurements and calculations of the movement of the sun, but also analyzing the other hills and mountains from where these observations were made. It was thus the observatory of observatories. From the top of Tepeyac Hill, you could see how the cosmic play unfolded in its grand stage. Like for instance how the Iztaccíhuatl volcano with its sunrises interacted with different mountains, but also with different cities and even monuments. Places like Huitzilopochtli, which at that time it was already ruins, and Mexico-Tenochtitlan were built on solar alignments which lined up to this cosmic drama. And from the different hills, pyramid temples, and even ruins of ancient cities, the Aztecs made these observations of the movement of the sun and the stars using the White Woman, the Iztaccíhuatl volcano, as a marker. But apart from this marker, markers and observatories were interconnected with each other in an astronomical and mathematical way. And the importance, again, falls on the hill of Tepeyac. This is the hill of Papayo. Its conical shape and closeness to the Iztaccíhuatl volcano is seen throughout the Valley of Mexico, including Huitzilopochtli, which had already been in ruins for millennia, a place from where the Aztecs could observe the sun rise from the north face of the Papayo Hill on March 23. The same sunrise was repeated on December 8, but when it was now seen from the Tepeyac Hill. From the observatory temple of Tonantzin, the sun, Huitzilopochtli, is observed to rise exactly at the northern face of the Papayo Hill. The link between the observatory at the southern end of the Valley of Mexico, Huitzilopochtli, and the observatory at the northern side of the same valley, Tepeyac Hill, creates a separation angle where the sun delineates the boundaries of the Valley of Mexico. In a calendar, that separation between March 23 of Huitzilopochtli and December 8 of Tepeyac is 260 days. And 260 days is the number of days a year has in the Tonalpohualli calendar, the sacred calendar. The calendar that was used to assign people's names and read their astrological inclination in this life. The Tepeyac Hill was linked to Coatlicue Tonantzin, to the great creative mother, our mother, by astronomical phenomena. Not only there in the hill of Tepeyac, but nearby is the hill of Zacahuitzco, from where you could see Huitzilopochtli, the sun, rise from the Papayo Hill on December 22nd. December 22nd, very close to December 12th, when according to tradition the Virgin of Guadalupe appeared to Juan Diego Cuauhtlahuatzin. This association is no mistake. December 21st is the winter solstice. What does it mean? Not only winter begins, but it is also the moment when the sun seems to stop in the sky on its way north. Huitzilopochtli stops, and on the third day he moves again, now to the south. The sun, Huitzilopochtli, is born from death, born from between the mountains of Iztaccíhuatl volcano and Papayo Hill, among others, depending on where you see it. Seen from Chapultepec, it is born from the White Woman, from the Iztaccíhuatl volcano. The white woman, Cihuacóatl, Tonantzin, Coatlicue, Tosi, Quilastli, different names for one female spirit. But the promise of rebirth is corroborated at Tepeyac Hill. That is why the astronomical observation post was built there, on the top of Tepeyac Hill, to observe Tonantzin, to attest Huitzilopochtli's promise of avenging his mother against the cold and darkness brought by the 400 southern stars. To observe and measure this drama of cosmic proportions, it was necessary to build an astronomical observatory, what we in the 21st century would call a pyramid. What the Hispanics during the time of the conquest called a temple to worship a goddess. That observatory was destroyed by the Hispanics for fear of what they called the devil, according to their bloodthirsty beliefs that they brought from Europe, our new world. And from its ruins a church was built in its place. Here, in our old world, it is common to observe that churches were built in exactly the same place where indigenous observatories and temples were. Despite the destruction, the story of Tonantzin endured. To-nan-zin. To, our. Nan, from the word Nantli, mother. Zin, revered. Tonantzin translates as our little mother, as a sign of respect. According to tradition, a female entity appeared to Juan Diego Cuauhtlatoatzin on Tepeyac Hill. This being appeared on December 12, 1531, according to the Julian calendar, which was the calendar used at the time. Making the conversion to the calendar we use today, that is, the Gregorian calendar, we would see that the female being did not appear on December 12th, but on December 22nd. December 22nd, a date close to the winter solstice. December 22nd is the date of birth of Huitzilopochtli, the sun. A date when you can see the sun rising out of the Papayo Hill from the Tepeyac Hill area. What did Juan Diego Cuauhtlatoatzin, a native of Cuautitlan, got to see? According to tradition, the Virgin of Guadalupe. Although the mathematically sacred dates of the Aztecs fit with the appearance of this entity, and exactly at Tepeyac Hill, the place known for its Tonantzin Coatlicue link. It goes without saying there was much distrust from the Spaniards. We know that this entity was not to their liking. Even years later, Spaniards came to warn at important ecclesiastical conferences that they were not sure what entity it was. One of the details of the story of the apparition to Juan Diego of this beautiful and striking woman, as described in the chronicles, was that she told him that we, the inhabitants of Anahuac, of Mesoamerica, were her little children. Her children. She delivered a message of protection to her children after the traumatizing shock of the conquest, genocide, massacres, and crimes against humanity committed by the Spaniards. That's why many Spaniards warned that the cult of that entity could stoke a national pride, which indeed ended up happening. In fact, the first flag of Mexico as such is neither the green, white, red flag of the First Mexican Empire nor the Trigarante flag, but the image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. So much so that in the War of Independence, we could say the Virgin of Guadalupe fought against the Virgin of Remedios, who represented Spain. Both virgins faced each other in battle and were even shot by firing squads if their images were captured. It was thus the Virgin of Guadalupe, or the female entity who appeared at the Tepeyac Hill, an anti-Spanish symbol. As much as syncretism wanted to permeate the story and imagery of what we know today as the Virgin of Guadalupe, so we can see how the circle closes between Coatlicue, our beloved but monstrous mother, with the Virgin of Guadalupe, called the patron saint of the Americas. In the image found on the Tilma Cape cloth, you can see the Virgin of Guadalupe with a black ribbon or black waistband belt. According to indigenous symbolism, she is a pregnant woman because she is wearing a black waistband belt. And in the same way, according to indigenous ideas, it would also be a woman who gave birth wearing the black girdle after giving birth to her child. So we close the circle from the image of Coatlicue with her snake waistband belt to the Virgin of Guadalupe with her black waistband belt. The idea of this cosmic mother, of the all-creating mother in Mesoamerica, in the Anahuac, has many aspects and manifestations. A pregnant woman who gives birth to the sun, who is our mother, our protector, and protector of fertility. A female spirit linked to the winter solstice, linked to death and rebirth of all things, like the molting of the skin of rattlesnakes, like nature in the mountains that she represents, like the Coatlicue supernova that exploded and died to give life and creation to our solar system, like the story of Tepeyac Hill, where after the destruction of our old world, the world in which we had always lived, give us hope for rebirth.